Great. I think it's time to begin. So firstly, very good morning to all of you. It's a bright Saturday morning and we're all gathered here to attend this online event today to celebrate the World MSME Day, which is essentially celebrating the power of small and unlocking the potential of MSMEs. We have about 100 people registered to join in our webinar the whole day today, and I really hope people come in and stay connected through the day with us. At India SME Accelerator Network, an introduction to give you is an exclusive business accelerator for SMEs that has been created by Value Sutra Business Consulting, a consulting firm for startups and SMEs. We have been helping businesses scale up profitably and sustainably over the years. And we felt the need for a platform that is more accessible and affordable for small businesses. And thus has come about India SME Accelerator Network. As the co-founder and CEO of this organization, it's my pleasure as well as honor to address each one of you today. On the occasion of World MSME Day, we are dedicating a full day of power-packed knowledge sharing sessions exclusively for small businesses. Given the current crisis of COVID-19 that has really hit the small businesses in multiple ways, we feel the need that there is an urgent intervention and support required for them, not just to survive, but also revive their businesses. Because they really contribute to 40% of the GDP. And here are those people who are making the difference as the backbone of the economy. While the government and various policymakers are doing the best they can at their end, India SME Accelerator Network believes that being a knowledge partner to chambers and trade and apex bodies, we have a collective responsibility to help the small businesses sail through this and holding hands with them and really pulling them out of this crisis. So today, through a series of interconnected topics, we shall be talking to industry experts from varying domain of expertise. And, I really wish that all of you are able to benefit from the session by asking as many questions that you think are relevant and pertinent. Please go for it. A few small protocols to maintain as participants today is your audio and video would be off. As you'd assume, 100 people joining in is quite a bit. But that doesn't stop us from interaction. We have the chat box at the bottom of your screen, as you can see. Please feel free to type in your questions, which will directly come to the panelists, and we will be more than happy to address them for you. Don't hesitate to ask the smallest question. Yeah, and before I move into the session number 1 for today, we have with us Mr. Alok Kedia, who has been kind enough to join us for today's session. And to give a background to what we are going to do today is that the crisis today has found MSMEs really cash trapped at both ends, if I may say. At one hand, the outflows are continuing, but at the other hand, the inflows are almost going down to a nil. So survival requires a financial impetus to a great extent to get us back on the recovery mode. There are various sources of financing, definitely, as you would know, banks, financial institutions, NBFCs, etc. But we believe banks to be a very important source. And ever since the government has announced, Nirmala Sitharaman's, announcement has come, a lot of questions have arisen in the minds of people over the last couple of weeks as to, what can we expect from banks? How will all this really trickle down to real businesses benefiting in terms of finances? So what are the banks doing now and will be doing in the next few weeks, and how should we go about taking benefit of these? So understand more of this and to get the bank's perspective, we have the best person here with us today, Mr. Alok Kedia. Mr. Alok is a chartered accountant with 25 years of experience with MNC banks and private banks in India in very senior positions in both product and credit appraisals. He is the Executive Vice President and Group Business Head for SME, Corporate Finance, Agriculture, Logistics, Education, Business Banking at IndusInd Bank. He is absolutely the right person to give us the perspective we're looking for today. And I welcome you, Alok.
Thank you, Shalini, and good morning, everyone. And thank you for giving me this opportunity to share my thoughts and experiences. Yeah. So, of course, as Shalini rightly mentioned, MSMEs form probably the most important part or the component of the Indian economy. But unfortunately, in the given circumstances, they are the ones which are the most impacted negatively because of the current situation. Okay, so of course, government has come out with a lot of measures to help them out. Okay, and which is what we'll be discussing in detail today as to how this is going to help the MSMEs. And of course, apart from that, we'll also talk about what should the MSMEs do in the current circumstances to come out of this situation in the best possible way. Yeah.
Great. Thanks for that note to begin with, actually. Among the various measures that have been announced by the government, maximum interest has been raised in the minds of people towards the 100% collateral-free MSME loans, which is called the Emergency Credit Line Guarantee Scheme. So, and there has been a little bit of anxiety because people don't seem to understand really how this is working and what should be done. So could you tell us a little bit, more about this to understand so that people know what to do and, what are the eligibility criteria, etc., for MSMEs to go about it?
Yeah. See, first and foremost, I mean, as you all know, I mean, MSMEs are defined in a particular way. But for this purpose, the definition has no meaning. So let's not go by the definition of the MSME, which was there earlier, and now of course a new definition has come out. Just I think yesterday only they've given the a formal gazette notification. So for this purpose, the MSMEs have a completely different eligibility criteria. You don't have to have that that investment in plant and machinery and and other turnover criteria as such applicable to this thing. Here it is a completely different set of criteria which are applicable for this particular scheme. So first and foremost, of course, is you have to have a turnover which is less than 100 crores. Okay, in the last financial year. So and it need not be audited. I mean, I know. I mean, most of the MSMEs will not have their accounts audited. So just a simple declaration from MSME side would suffice that yes, the turnover is less than 100 crores. Second criteria is that the MSME has to have total borrowings, fund-based borrowings. We're talking of fund-based borrowings and not non-fund borrowings like LCs and BGs limit. Fund-based borrowing from anywhere totaling should not exceed 25 crores as on 29th Feb 2020. Third criteria is that the MSME should be the existing customer of the bank or the let's say NBFCs. So if you're a new customer, I mean, you just cannot go and ask for this scheme. You have to have the existing relationship, borrowing relationship with the lending institutions. Fourth criteria is that MSME should not be an NPA account, already NPA account, or SMA2 account. If you are SMA 0 or let's say SMA 1, you are still eligible. But if your account is already into SMA 2 is defined as if your overdues are exceeding more than 60 days. And of course, the NPA accounts are not eligible for benefits under this scheme. Fifth criteria is that you have to be registered as GST wherever it is required. In case your GST registration is not required, then also you're eligible. But if you're required to be registered under GST, for example, let's say lower turnover MSMEs are not required to have GST, let's say GST registration, then it's fine. But if you're required to have GST registration, then you must have GST registration to avail the benefits under this scheme. So this is about the eligibility criteria applicable for availing the benefits under this scheme.
Okay, sounds very good. You spoke about non-fund based and fund, so which is the LCs and guarantees. So the fund base, essentially, for the benefit of some people, if you could just elaborate a little bit about what is fund based loan as a criteria.
So fund based, I mean, any kind of actual loan that you have availed. For example, I mean, it could be a cash credit limit, it could be a, let's say, overdraft limit, it could be a, let's say, term loan limit, or it could be a, let's say, any kind of, let's say, export packing credit, whether it's post shipment or pre shipment. So those are called as fund based limits, where you actually get get physical cash from the bank as let's say as loan, whereas known fund are basically primarily LC limits, letter of credit limits, and bank guarantees.
Perfect. That is very helpful. So what would the benefits mean? I mean, will the loan under the scheme be automatically, credited, or an application solicitation required from the borrowers? What would, the MSMEs actually need to do?
Yeah. So government has released these eligibility criteria. Okay. Now it is for the banks to assess whether you are eligible or not. I mean, the MSME does not have to do anything. The banks will assess based on this eligibility criteria, and if you are found to be eligible as per these guidelines, the banks or NBFCs will send a pre-approved, pre-sanctioned offer letter to the SMEs on their own. Okay, and then once the SMEs get this offer letter, okay, they just have to say yes or no. Okay, if you want those funds, 20% up to 20% funds, you can say yes and communicate accordingly to the banks, and then of course banks will ask for small documentation. I mean, of course, which is the normal routine documentation that you have to execute for getting any loan. But if you're not wanting to avail this loan, just say no, and that's about it.
Okay.
So there is no application process as such. You don't have to run after the banks. In case you feel that you are eligible and bank has not offered you, of course you need to get in touch with the bank immediately. And banks are bound to, if you're eligible, in all respect, the banks are compulsorily mandated to give that up to 20% of the funding to you.
That sounds quite simple and doable for most businesses. So what happens when an MSME has multiple lender accounts, multiple accounts with let's say multiple banks that they bank with? Then what would be the procedure? I'm sure all of them will not automatically.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. See, many of the SMEs, our SMEs will have let's say borrowings from more than one bank or NBFCs, right? So while one bank can give up to 20% of its own borrowing. So for example, let's say from bank A, you have taken 10 crore rupees. Okay. So bank A will give you up to 20 crores, up to 20% of 10 crores, which is up to 2 crores. Now, suppose you've taken another, let's say 15 crores from bank B. Okay. So bank B will give you up to 20%, which is, let's say, maximum 3 crore rupees. Now, so both the banks will offer you separately. Okay. It may so happen that one bank is not willing to take or let's say give, okay, for whatever reason, or maybe that one bank the pricing or the interest rate is higher in case of one bank as compared to other bank. So what you can do, you can actually choose to take the entire 5 crores from one bank, one single bank only, in which case the other bank, you have to go to other bank and request to give one NOC to the other bank. Okay, that boss, I'm okay, even my part you can lend. Okay, so what happens in this case, the first bank itself will give you the entire 5 crores at the lesser rate. So you just require one simple NOC from one bank to other to get the entire funding from one bank only, instead of getting two different fundings. But your amount will remain the same only. You cannot get, let's say, extra amount. It has to be up to 20% of your total entire borrowings.
I understood. Sounds good and sounds completely fair as well, from a lender perspective and the MSME perspective. Could you tell us a little bit about what kind of interest rates people can expect? What's the processing fee? What will be the cost of this whole scheme and going about it?
Yeah. So again, here also bank has very clearly mandated as to what maximum banks can charge. Okay, whether in terms of interest rates or processing fee. In terms of processing fee, the government has clearly said no processing fee is to be charged. So in case a bank is asking for a processing fee, please refer to the government guidelines and tell them clearly that, boss, as per the government guidelines, the banks or NBFCs cannot charge even single paisa processing fee. As far as the interest rate is concerned, okay, the maximum that interest rate can be charged by banks is 9.25. This is the maximum. Of course, they'll have to follow a particular formula that which has been given by the government. But in any case, the maximum it can go up to is 9.25 as far as bank is concerned. However, if your lending is from NBFC, the maximum it can go up to 14%. So it's very clear. I mean, if banks are asking for more than anything which is prescribed, please refer them these guidelines, which are absolutely available on the website, absolutely very easily, and even the guidelines are very clearly defined. I mean, so you can tell the banks that you cannot charge more than what is prescribed in the guidelines.
That's very reassuring, definitely. So, like you said, that the rates would differ from banks and NBFCs. Amongst banks, again, there could be a change in rates, different people applying different rate, like a private bank and a public bank.
No, so I see. So again, the formula has been clearly defined in the guidelines. So, for example, your current rate is let's say current rate is 8%, for example. Okay. Now they can charge only 1% over and above your current rate.
Okay.
So it will go up to 9%. But at the same time, government has also prescribed an upper ceiling of 9.25%. For example, let's say your current rate itself is 9%. Okay. In which case, your pricing cannot go beyond 9.25. They cannot add 1% on 9%. Similarly, if your current rate is 7%, they can charge only 8%, 7 plus 1. So whatever is the current rate plus 1, subject to a total maximum of 9.25. This is how it is calculated.
Right. That's very fair and pretty clear, actually. That is pretty clear. Wonderful. So when one goes about the scheme and it ends up as a borrowing at the end of the day, what about the security on the credit extended?
Okay. Again, here also the guidelines are very clear. Banks cannot take any additional guarantee. Additional security from you. Okay. You don't have to give any collateral, any other security. Whatever security you have already given, they will create a charge on that only. They will create a second charge on that collateral only. You don't have to give any additional security under any circumstances. You don't have to give anything extra. Whatever is given is given.
Right. So that's how it becomes, collateral free, as they call it, completely.
Yeah. And suppose your loan is absolutely unsecured. Even your current loan is also unsecured. Still, you don't have to give anything.
Right. Sounds very good. That sounds very fair and very good. So, this gives, I'm sure, the participants a good round of understanding about, what this collateral free lending and the scheme is all about. So, apart from this, whatever the government is offering as schemes and, financing options, what are some of the things that an MSME can also do, especially given that there is a certain amount of cash available in the value chain of a business, on either side. So is there any other option that people can look at in their supply chain?
So yeah, of course. So, but before I get into that, now I just want to give a very word of caution as far as the moratorium is concerned. Okay, and now moratorium is not just available to MSMEs. In fact, it is available across the board, even for the larger clients only. And I'm sure a lot of our MSME companies must have availed moratorium. Okay, so I just want to give a word of caution as far as this moratorium is concerned. While yes, this is again a very good and thought through measures as announced by the government to help the borrowers, especially the MSMEs. See, in case you have the fund with you, don't avail the moratorium unnecessarily. Only if you are stressed and you see that stress is going to continue, that you should ask for moratorium. And why? Because under moratorium you will be charged interest on interest. Interest will be compounding. Okay, which is actually going to be a double whammy on your finances and cash flows, because ultimately you will have to pay even if you are, let's say, paying after 6 months, you will have to pay. But you will be paying interest on interest also. So don't go for availment of moratorium even if it's available to you, just because it's available to you. So if you are, I mean, cash flows, while I mean reasonably okay, don't avail it and go for payment of monthly interest. This is my advice to all our MSME members.
Absolutely. I think that's a very good and very valid point you brought about, Alok, for people to understand. Because often there is a tendency for people to be looking out for help, not realizing, at what cost that help would come. And also we forget to look within the business itself. And there are various opportunities, and there is a lot of, various other avenues that businesses can go about looking at. And thanks for, bringing that up, as an advice.
Yeah. So now I'll move to other aspects. See, for MSMEs, I mean, and this has been, I mean, age-old problem. The biggest problem for our MSMEs is the lack of availability of the fund at the right price and at the right terms and at the right time, I would say. Okay. So, and of course, this continues even now also. I mean, more so in the current environment when all the lenders, all the banks and NBFCs have become risk adverse. Okay, and it may be right. We'll not go into the right or wrong of it. But of course, see, you have to realize that even banks are commercial organizations. They are not like, let's say, charities. So they also have to look at their own finances and the profitability and survival. In fact, I would say.
Right. Absolutely.
So the banks have become very risk adverse in the current environment, and hence, I mean, the already constrained, let's say, resources, banking resources for SMEs has become even more constrained and even more, let's say, tight. Okay, so under this situation, one thing which comes as a very powerful tool for all the for banks as well as MSMEs is supply chain finance. Okay, so in case our MSME members are facing any problems, okay, in terms of getting the funding at the right time, right price, and right terms, they should contact their banks and NBFCs for supply chain finance. So how it works basically is, see, in India, most of the MSMEs are supplying to the large corporates. Okay. And that is why actually one of the problems is that because they supply to the large corporates who are able to extract, let's say, disproportionate better terms for themselves, and which in turn squeezes out the poorer MSMEs. I would put it this way. Okay, and that's where actually the requirement of funding comes in, because they dictate the terms so heavily loaded in their favor. They don't get the payment. I mean, the MSMEs don't get the payments on time, extended credit time and all. So, but this actually this can actually become the blessing in disguise. Okay, so what happens is, I mean, while banks are ready to extend better terms and better more loans to the larger corporates and not to the MSMEs. So this situation of MSMEs whereby they are supplying to large corporates can be utilized for getting loans for the MSMEs. Okay. So what happens is let's say when you raise invoices on larger corporates, okay, you create receivables from such larger corporates in your books. Okay. Now, banks, since the banks are comfortable lending to such large corporates, they may lend to you against those receivables which you have in your books from such large corporates. Okay. So this can be structured in various ways, either under proper supply chain finance, or let's say under bill of exchange. I mean, if at all your buyer is ready to give the bill of exchange, or even let's say plain simple sales bill discounting also. Okay, so you raise the bill or invoice against your buyer. Okay, give that invoice to your bank. Okay, bank will discount that invoice and give, let's say, probably 90% of the bill amount to you upfront. Okay, the moment you have supplied and got a confirmation from the from your buyer that the goods have been received. Okay, with a condition, with one condition, that your buyer will make the payment, let's say after 90 days, directly to the bank's account. Okay, so in such case, banks are comfortable that the large corporate will in fact pay on time and without defaulting to the bank. So bank is safe. Okay, but what it's done is basically it helps the MSME get a loan at a cheaper rate and without much of let's say security. So this is a very a simple kind of a structure, which and a very routine kind of structure for the bank. So it's not a very complex and very out of let's say world kind of a structure for the bank. It's a very routine kind of a thing. So you should approach your banks for giving you this structure in case you are supplying to a good corporate.
Right. So I think this is a very important point, Alok, that you brought out. And I really hope the participants have taken note of this. To say if you're today sitting cash trapped because you have huge receivables from some large corporate whom you're, trading with, whom you're a supplier to, who is your customer? Let's say a large corporate is your customer. And you right now don't have money coming in because you have already done, the invoices are sitting open. All right. So receivables are open. So what Mr. Alok has just explained is how do you use that to get money for yourself before they can pay you. You can encash that with a bank. So these are simple things, but like he's suggesting, please walk up to your branch, walk up to your banks, talk to them, and tell them that you're looking for supply chain financing. And there are a lot of options that they can offer to you, and you can really avail today at this point of time.
So there's another way actually. So one is of course you approach the bank itself, okay, and then work out a structure. And banks should be willing to. I mean, as long as your buyer is cooperating, banks will be happy to look at this structure. There is another way to avail this thing. You can approach your buyer also. Okay, so instead of going to the bank, go to a buyer. Okay, let buyer directly talk to the bank. Okay, that boss, I need this structure not just for my this SME, but for all my all other MSMEs also who are supplying to me. Okay, so so when buyer itself goes to the bank, the banks get extra comfortable. Okay, that that buyer is ready to cooperate on its own. Okay, and it becomes actually, if you see, it becomes a win-win for all three. The SME, the bank, and the and your buyer also, because if if you are fully financed and well financed, okay, rightly financed, I mean, their supplies are, let's say, I mean, what do you call it, as they get a security on their stable supplies. Okay, and that's where they get their benefit. And of course, from bank's perspective, they get, I mean, almost risk-free kind of lending in their books. Okay, and if you get your buyer to actually speak to your bank, and which is what is formally called a supply chain finance, whereby the buyer itself is going to the bank with a formal offer. Okay, see, the terms of the lending becomes even more I mean, favorable to you. So they will not ask for any kind of collateral. They will give you a very cheap rate, and of course it becomes very fast. In fact, just to add over here, Government of India realized this problem that MSMEs have been facing for decades actually. Okay, and they have actually instituted something called TReDS. Okay, Trades and Receivable Finance Platform. It's called TReDS, whereby they've given licenses to a few of the banks, basically the JVs of the banks, to start this platform, whereby they're actually pushing the companies to get into the supply chain finance mode. Now, you may ask us to what is the difference between TReDS and the normal supply chain finance, which I explained here. Okay, so so the difference basically here is 2-3 things. So what happens over the TReDS platform, which is a RBI monitored and RBI licensed platform. Okay, so the chances of anything happening amiss for the SME is very less, because it is monitored and licensed by RBI. Okay, here the other thing is, I think even no documentation is required. You just have to go log in into the system and register over there. Third, the pricing is so cheap. I mean, the pricing here is based on bidding process. Okay, so various banks are also registered on this platform. Okay, so once you upload your invoice, okay, the banks bid for that funding of your invoice with their pricing. Okay, with the result that time in the pricing goes down so cheap because banks are actually bidding for this thing. Ultimately, it's all for the advantage of the MSME. The lower pricing you get, the better it is. So this is how actually, so you can actually go ask your buyer that, boss, why don't you actually, register yourself on the TReDS platform. In fact, government of India actually has made it compulsory for all the public sector undertakings. So to compulsory register on this TReDS platform. So in case you guys, any one of our MSME members are supplying to a public sector units, you should actually ask them, push them, and force them to actually register on the TReDS platform, the RBI.
Yeah, I think that was extremely valuable, Alok, because not many people are currently aware that their invoices could even get bid by banks,
Yeah, actually, which is,
yeah.
and it's actually working for the last 2 years. I'm surprised actually still. I mean, even though government has launched this very good initiative taken, but they have not actually, I think, popularize it so well. I mean, I think still people are not, most of the people are not aware about this particular platform.
Absolutely. And it's extremely powerful now that you know, and now that the people who are participating in our session today are aware, they can definitely go approach their banks and, really make the best out of these options that they have. So Alok, I think there are a couple of more questions that we have for you at this point. Apart from some of these financing options that one could look at, are there, let's say, some mantras for MSMEs to survive in these challenging times? From a finance perspective, how would you guide them? How should they go about the current situation?
See, the first and foremost, I mean, our MSME members should look at is rationalizing the cost. I can share with you all the large organizations, large banks, medium organizations. They're all going for rationalizing of the cost. Okay, that's the first and foremost, and probably the easiest to do right now. Okay, so whether it's let's say your raw material cost or rentals cost or people's cost, interest cost, you should. So for example, interest cost, I mean, the interest rates are going down. Okay, so why not? I mean, you should renegotiate with the banks. Okay, many banks like, for example, SBI and other banks have reduced the interest rate on FDs also. So this should translate into lower interest rates for your borrowings also. So go for renegotiation, go for cutting down of various costs. That should be your first and foremost criteria. I mean, even larger, for example, larger organizations are going for salary cuts. So I mean, you can also, so everybody has to contribute. No, I mean, don't think this as some kind of let's say, don't give it at a emotional or social angle to it. Just go for it. That is how you can survive in this current circumstances. So try and see each and every aspect of your cost where you can actually renegotiate your cost. Every aspect of cost. Go through every account head in your profit and loss account and see where you can renegotiate or rediscuss the costs. So that's the most important thing you should do in terms of even your raw material suppliers. Okay, ask for better terms. Try as much as possible wherever. So cost reduces, basically profit increased. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
That's pretty useful because I'm sure people are looking right now at some of the cost measures out of necessity more than by choice, and but renegotiating some of the things is definitely one thing that you can do. Cutting cost is one, and some costs that have to be borne, yes, how can you kind of renegotiate, like you said, going back even to the bank, for example, to say, okay, how can my lending rate go down from what it was in the past to now, because the FD rates are going down. So these are very valuable inputs coming today, for people.
So just to add over here, Shalini,
Yeah.
rentals probably see many of our MSMEs will be working out from, let's say, rented premises, whether it's offices or let's say godowns or let's say even other premises. Okay, now I can tell you the rentals have gone down by almost 20%, 20 to 30%. I can share about my thing. All the large corporates, all the banks, branches, they are renegotiating for 20-30%, and people are agreeing also.
Right.
So don't hesitate and ask for. So you, I mean, I'm just sharing this as a reality basically, that these kind of renegotiation on rentals are happening across the corporate world. So why not?
Definitely. So, Alok, if you're comfortable, we can move into the question answer
So
sessions.
maybe can I just go through some of the more other the thing.
Sure,
See,
please.
yeah. So other thing could be mantras as far as the current situation is concerned. Uh, MSMEs can also think of, let's say, moving out. Let's say, see, right now sales are down. Okay, so it might make sense actually to get out of, even if it's temporary, get out of, let's say, not so profitable products, segments, people, geographies. Okay, and again, I can share with you, this is happening across all the entire corporate world. If you feel that, okay, no, I don't need a sales guy in a particular location, or let's say I don't need a this small branch office in a particular location which is not contributing much in terms of my overall sales, please leave out that office and the related expenses that office. Okay, if you feel that this particular segment is not contributing right now, let's say it's contributing only 1.5% of your total sales, please get out of that particular product right now. Maybe you can think of again coming back 5 months, 6 months down the line when the things start looking normal. Similarly, our MSMEs, again, this is actually what I'm going to say now is relevant, even in non-COVID situation also. See, we should always keep looking at how we can increase our efficiencies. Keep looking at process improvements, which can give you a huge amount of overall efficiencies in terms of profitability, reduce costs, etc. Okay, you may probably at times find that you don't have the expert, basically right kind of expertise available to do all that. So in the current, I mean gig economy, let's say, as we call it right now, okay, now you have, let's say, experts available on various subjects. I know, I mean, it will be difficult for you to employ them. Okay, but you can actually, I mean, get into a, let's say, turnkey kind of assignment, uh, and get that thing done. And I can tell you this will be more profitable actually. You assign them, give them a task, I mean, which can be, let's say, result oriented and success based fee also. So go for that kind of improvement in all your processes, policies. You can get experts who are available for let's say small assignments at let's say reasonable price, which works out very cheaper and effective and profitable for MSMEs.
Great. I'm glad you brought this up, Alok, because this is definitely, as a platform, India SME Accelerator Network is definitely a platform for mentoring and consulting and training various small businesses. So, and that's how we have industry experts like you coming, where people have access to the right kind of people to interact with and the right kind of questions to be answered over here. So participants can stay in touch with us in future. There'll be various programs that we will come up with experts, so you can take people on board to really turn around your businesses with us. So definitely we can engage on various assignments. Thanks, Alok, for
Yeah,
bringing that up. Yeah.
yeah. The other last thing I would probably like to share is again adoption of technology. Okay, I'm sure all of you read and see and this thing. Technology is going to take over so many aspects of our businesses, and especially now the realization has become even more important. So, I mean, as far as the technology is, let's say, in terms of cost benefit, it's reasonable. We should look at adopting more and more technology going forward. Otherwise, I mean, those who do not adopt, let's say, will be left behind. That is for sure. the world is changing very, very fast. The technologies are changing very, very fast. One has to adopt to create that differentiation and to create that extra efficiency in the overall businesses.
Totally agree. Can't
Yeah.
agree more, Lok, because this is definitely a need that people appreciate, and I really hope they understand the need of adopting as soon as possible. And in fact, today in our agenda, we have a session exclusively for this called Digital Transformation of MSMEs, which comes immediately after the break. And you will get to hear a lot more of what Mr. Alok is telling us today. You'll get to hear in depth about actually transforming your business digitally. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, Alok. More
Yeah.
mantras from you. We're happy to hear.
So see, I'm not an expert on many other things, but from what I see, I mean, from a macro level perspective, these are some of the things I thought I will share with you. Of course, we can have a more detailed session on some of these topics, which probably I've seen more. But yes, I mean, people have to change. The businesses are changing. The world is changing. MSMEs also have to change within the cost constraints that they have. But yes, they must have that kind of mindset to change. Actually, culturally, we have to change how
True.
we do the business.
Absolutely. So the mindset change, I think, is the most important one, like you touched right now upon, because that is where people are, from the negative sentiment of saying things are not working, everything is gloomy, kuch nahi hone wala hai aage, kind of a thing. From there, people have to get into that survival mode, which triggers them in the positive direction of how we can bring about the change. What is it that I can do to fight the situation? What is it that, where can I get the resources? Where can I get the help? How do I really bounce back out of this? So I think that's the mindset change that we really need at this point of time. And the more people are in the positive directions, I'm sure solutions will come. When you ask for the right questions, then the solutions will also automatically come to you. So that's a wonderful thought shared by you, Alo.
Just to give you example, I mean, like we are doing this webinar. I mean probably these kind of webinars were not very prevalent, let's say before COVID, but this has become the norm now. Okay, not traveling for meetings again has become a norm. Okay, I mean, people are now equally comfortable dealing, let's say, on the phone or on the, let's say, video calls. So working from home again, I mean, our MSMEs, why not? They can also adopt, let's say 20, 30, 40% of their employees can also work from home. Why not actually? So think in those lines. I mean, you have to be aligned with the changes which are taking place globally and adopt them within your cost constraints. Don't, let's say, be afraid of biting the bullet, I would say.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well said. Well said. I think, for the participants, for their knowledge, it will be good to know that, we're in this together and we are here to help you make this transition from where you were 3 months back to where you should be, now and in the future. So when it comes to redesigning your business strategy, rethinking how you want to be operating, so we have various programs that are coming up, especially called the Business Recovery Program, wherein at least 20 to 30 MSMEs can pool into a program, and we are going to take you into the next level with the help of 8 to 10 mentors over a period of 6 weeks. So these are various programs coming up. Stay tuned and keep watching the space and remain connected with us so that you are a part of the journey with a whole lot of people. You're not alone in this crisis. We're all sailing in it together, and we will see ourselves at the brighter side of the tunnel at the end of this crisis. So we read a lot of, in fact, for the session that we've had, Alok, so far, thanks for your inputs, because, as much as we are saying that the government financing schemes, etc., are coming up, we believe that they have sanctioned about 79,000 crores so far, and of which already about 35,000 crores is disbursed, in terms of financing. Is that true? And, because it's meant to kind of impact about 19 lakh MSMEs already,
Yeah.
which is great news, and which is really good to see. At least so many MSMEs have taken that headway already in the positive direction so far and are moving forward in recovering their businesses. So hopefully the much needed impetus shall come through, and we will all move in the right direction with our businesses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, so disbursements have started moving because see initially when the government released the guidelines, there were a lot of, let's say, gray areas, not much clarity, and then banks started asking for those clarifications. All of those have now come, and banks have now actually gotten into the disbursement mode. Actually, very frankly, everybody is now, and in fact, the government has been very proactive. Now they are asking for a daily disbursement feedback from each of the banks. Okay, so they are pushing banks to expedite the release of the funds to the MSMEs. Yeah, so so government is doing all it can actually, and pushing the banks to fasten the whole process. So you should see, I mean, disbursement picking up in the next week or so. Yeah.
That's great. That's great. Really reassuring. Absolutely. So we can move to some of the questions that our
Yeah.
participants have at this point. So we have one question. Can we get Mahaparvana to start? Okay, he's talking about Mahaparvana, which has just been declared by the Maharashtra government. I think the answer to you, sir, who's asking this question, Mr. Rangarao Shinde. So you could definitely visit the government site. It's called Maitri, Maharashtra scheme for industry. And the details available over there, and you can apply over there, as per that. Yeah. So if a project loan is not approved by a bank, then what do you do? I think that's another question from Mr. Rangarao.
Okay. See, it is entirely to approve or not approve. Okay, I'm not talking of this emergency credit line. Of course, that is mandatory if you are eligible. But otherwise, in the normal circumstances, to approve or not approve any loan is entirely at the discretion of the bank. Okay, and of course, the banks are also two things. Again, I'll reiterate: they are a commercial organization. They are there to make the profits. So, in case a project is good and profitable and looks good, obviously they will go ahead and fund. Okay, but in case they find it I mean, not, let's say, worthy enough, so of course they'll take a decision not to go ahead. So we can't do much. I mean, it's entirely at the bank's discretion whether to fund or not fund.
Right. And if I may add, over here is sometimes the enterprises fail to recognize and realize the preparation that is needed before putting together a project proposal. There are a lot of information that will be very valuable, which includes the team, the profile of the business owner, various things that can talk about the potential of a project plan that sometimes get missed out. The opportunity in the industry, what's the real value that the project is going to bring about, what's the positioning of it in a competitive landscape in an international market or an Indian market. So there are various elements of a project plan that really need to be thought through and put together into a project proposal. That is how you will be able to help the bank also think through and take a right decision in your favor. So you will have to help the bank do the best for you, rather than saying, oh, I put a proposal and it just got rejected. If it's a good project proposal, like Mr. Alok is saying, it will definitely get the attention it needs to, and you can make it competitive between banks to say who is ready to fund this at a lower rate, and go ahead with us as a partner. So enough preparation and thinking through has to go through when you prepare these project proposals. Yeah.
See, so I would like I absolutely agree with Shalini. Okay, see, banks love 2-3 things. Okay, banks love, let's say, more and more information. The more details you give, so that they get better perspective about your project and your overall business profile. Banks love transparency. Okay, so the more transparent you are in coming up with details and sharing information and details about your businesses, the more open you are regarding your business, the banks will get, again, more perspective. They'll get more confidence. Okay. And third thing is, most of the MSMEs, again, culturally in India, we feel, we don't want to give taxes. Okay. And as a result, we end up showing, let's say minimum required profits on books. Okay. Now, and that is the reason, actually, that is the biggest reason why banks ask for collaterals, because we don't make our balance sheet strong enough. Okay, even though our businesses are strong, our promoters are strong, business models are strong, but our balance sheet is not strong. Okay, and that is the reason banks end up asking for so many collaterals from you. The day we start, let's say, showing full profits, the balance sheet will start getting stronger. Okay, and gradually you will see the requirement of this collateral will fade away. Okay, see, why do you think the large corporates, they get unsecured loans from the banks? Because the only reason is, of course, apart from being good otherwise also, their balance sheets are strong. So
Right.
we will have to, as an SME segment, we'll have to start getting into that mindset again. That let us start showing, and I can tell you, I mean, today probably we don't have the time. I can explain you how it helps you in the long run, not just with um, uh, uh, loans only. It helps you, I mean, in your business in so many other ways also. If you have a stronger balance sheet, okay, the profit, the benefits will be much more in terms of overall this thing, and not just loans only. It has far-reaching implications in many other aspects also. So please start showing profits in your books.
Right, right. So that's a very peaceful, very good piece of information for people to have when they're putting forward a project proposal. Somebody here has a question, Alok, which is Mr. Shamim Sheikh saying that I took a loan from Aditya Birla Finance and now business is stopped and I've not paid the EMI for some time, for 3 months. It is definitely impacting my CIBIL score, you know. So, are these moratoriums supposed to, or are these defaults really supposed to impact the CIBIL score? How do you manage that? Is that
No. See, in case you have taken the moratorium, this will not impact neither the SMA rating, nor the NPAs, nor the civil ratings. So government has very clearly given the guidelines. If you have taken the moratorium, and of course, moratorium you don't have to pay, it is not going to impact your scores in any which way.
okay?
So please, I'm sure this person has taken the moratorium, so he can rest assured. I mean, there will be no impact.
Right. That's heartening. That's comforting. So we have another question from Mr. Vinay, who says that nationalized bank is not giving loan easily under the Mudra scheme. So I think you've answered this question sometime back, because people have now gone into the dispersal mode now. Possibly, they were in the policy, laying down situation for some time, and now the disbursement mode is beginning. So possibly they should be able to see disbursements happening hereafter.
Yeah, and government is pushing all the banks on a daily basis. We have to report as to how many cases have been disbursed, amount disbursed on a daily basis. So there's a lot of pressure from the Ministry of Finance also. So I think it should happen. As I said, I mean, next week or so, it's to start getting into more of this thing.
Right, right. So these were some of the questions that we had. On the interest rate, again, we had a question saying that there is a bank charge of 76,000 for credit guarantee fee.
No, I mean, there's no charge actually. If for this emergency credit line, absolutely nil charges are to be applied. So if your bank has debited you something, please get into a touch with them and ask them and show them that the guidelines very clearly. You can put it on mail also. So I'm sure they will reverse it.
Great. I think that's extremely valuable, because today we've got to listen to so many things about not just government financing, but also beyond government financing, about supply chain financing, TReDS platform, and a whole lot of mantras from Mr. Alok. And so I'm really happy that all the participants today should have benefited significantly with your talk, Mr. Alok. We really appreciate the time taken out by you. And this means a lot for MSMEs. And we thank your contribution towards that in terms of time, as well as your knowledge and inputs today coming out of your experience.
Thank you, Shalini, for giving this opportunity. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So I would request the participants to stay tuned. Our next session will begin in a few minutes. As you're aware, our next session is going to be a panel discussion. We will have the panelists join in over the next few minutes, and the session will begin at 12 o'clock sharp. Please stay tuned with us. You can keep posting your questions to us in the meanwhile for the next session. If you have any, we will definitely take them up through the session. Stay tuned.
Marketing and especially social media. So typically when we talk of social media, we think of Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, etc., WhatsApp, etc. But we have always been actually looking at basically interacting, using these tools to interact with them, especially with our customers and taking customer feedback.